makes you wonder, why would you want to go to the future? In my opinion, the only reason I'd want to go to the future, it's not for the better food, because there'd probably be way better food right now. It would be for the opportunity to literally travel through interstellar space. Now, there's some problems we've already discovered that, well, you can't really go faster than light. Sorry, it just doesn't happen. So, the societies that are emerging inside globular clusters have a way better chance of interacting with each other due to their close proximity to each other. The rest of us are going to have to put ourselves into a matrix similar to the one I just discussed, where you would scan a human mind like mine, and you would take that and replicate all of the functional pathways in a matrix of silicon and germanium and niobium and all these other things. Eventually you're going to reach a point where silicon is no longer used. You probably like lithium niobate with titanium diffusion. Now you have switchable optical mirrors. Now you can start approaching like optical processors as soon as you set up a clock and things like that. So in the near future, or distant future, depending on how society decides to embrace optical processor technology, and it depends on the success of the quantum computer as well. But I think even with the quantum computer, you're still going to have some serious competition when it comes to optical processing, or from optical processing. So let's decide, I guess, on optical computing as the matrix for the future. So we got to think about optical properties of materials that allow light to pass through it. Well, one of the most interesting and strongest materials that we have available in our arsenal of things that can bend light is diamond. And with chemical vapor deposition, it's chemical vapor deposition, that's CVD, chemical vapor deposition, you can create artificial diamonds in layers. Now, what I'm going to recommend is something shaped like an egg, and you're going to have basically a diamond-based optical computer that also generates power. Now, diamond's really cool. We haven't had a lot of experience so far in society with creating diamond layer-based photovoltaics, but it's possible. So because of that, we can decide that's going to be the matrix that we're going to use to move forward with this design right here. So this is what we'll call a solar egg. I'm going to slate it for interstellar travel. That's inner solar system travel. And if you took your unique signature that is your consciousness and put it in a replication matrix like this, you could essentially have consciousness. You yourself would essentially wake up inside this lattice. Now, the other lattice that I saw, that I drew for you in the last video, would also allow you consciousness in the sense, I think it's going to be kind of like waking up from a dream. Your unique vibration in the universe is so unique that you yourself, as you're sitting there right now watching this video, let's say 2 seconds from now, oh, I'm sorry, you passed away. But let's say you did it inside a facility that had already scanned your mind and already prepared you and was going to prepare your body for long-term burial, and you're going to be brought back by a corporation. You're going to have to incorporate at some point that's designed to bring you back from the dead, to essentially resurrect your consciousness or your conscious mind, the thing that makes you who you are. All the grand sum of your total. That means essentially everything that you are would be brought back to life in a synthetic simulation. Now, the same thing could occur in an optical computer lattice simulation, and that's essentially what we want to do. We want to be able to bring you back. And we're going to put you in something that you're going to survive in, and like I said, my opinion is you're going to want to come back and you want to travel the stars, right? Yeah, me too. Alright, so this one here, I've just created 2 belt regions here because you're probably going to need like a donut-shaped multi-torus type of thing with optical punch cards and lithium niobate mirrored optical conduits and storage rings and things for your memories. And using a multi-layer. Now, how are you going to get around? Now, in the middle here, I put an ion accelerator engine. That's one of those engines NASA's been toying around with. It follows some principles of physics. I personally ran into the same design. We called it an acorn drive because you can make them really small and they'd be incredibly powerful if you gave them a power source. Now in this case right here, I've created a layered diamond egg, or I hypothesize a layered diamond egg around the engine, around the storage system, around the sensor system, front and back, so that light, when it comes in contact with the surface of this material, gets folded in, and all the light that hits it, well, you could probably have an optical switching gate mirror on the outside that would basically take in all the light in any amount that you would want. And that, of course, that light would be channeled down to photovoltaic materials inside here and concentrated and even filtered and converted using your garnet converters and things like that to be able to convert it into the wavelengths of light that your photovoltaics that are built into the core of the charging system would be able to absorb at the highest efficiency. So basically you make one of these things and you expose it to light, and you could have RF in here, RF receivers, transmitters, all kinds of things, but that ion accelerator, that's really cool. It basically has a little tiny plasmatic, admittedly, ion accelerator that accelerates these little tiny packets of a noble gas. My original design, I believe I was using xenon. But you could use argon and any of your noble gases. Anyways, you accelerate them as a plasma, and they're shot out the end, and there's a magnet. I'm showing here a ring magnet. You could probably use a cylindrical magnet, but essentially what happens is the accelerated pellets of ionized plasma, are shot out and shot against a magnetic field generated from a permanent magnet inside here, and that force, believe it or not, you start really slow and you speed up real fast and you slam into that magnetic field, it provides momentum. It converts or transfers the momentum of the ion packets or into the magnetic field, and there's a process of secondary electron emission. That's where you get your bump, and that's where you're getting that step up. Are you getting more power out of it than you put in? No, you probably have to use a lot of power to be able to get a little tiny bump. The cool thing is you never run out of propellant, because all it does is it hits the magnetic field, and then the gases go back around inside this thing and go back around for another spin. And eventually you can make these things super efficient, so instead of little packets, you would have a wave motion cannon, essentially, that would be a continuous ripple against the magnetic field of, you could even vary the strength by bringing the magnets themselves closer or further away. You could make a little movable part inside here that would be able to constrict that using outer coils and things like that. So you could increase or decrease the intensity of the field. That's going to give you your forward motion. Now in space, that's going to work really, really well. So in space, you're going to be able to just go like gangbusters, because in space, of course, you apply a continuous force and you just keep it going faster and faster and faster. Now, I made it egg-shaped because you're going to run into resistance, and that resistance is going to be in the form of micrometeorites and just general gases out in front here. That pen's no good. Sorry. There we go. You have general gases and things that are going to stack up in front of this thing, and it's going to act to part those gases. Now, I estimate that this drive system could move you, say, 0.86 light speed, and you'll have, as long as the stars shine and your power converters inside the multi-layered diamond casing remain functional, so they should be really well protected. You put them in the back so they don't get damaged. I mean, you can put them in the front too. High-powered ones in the front, secondary powered ones in the back, and you can use a dual sensor type setup to where your photovoltaic converter is also your sensor. So you're going to use it as your electronic eyes to see out. The electronic eyes, when you're not converting the eye signals into data, you could convert that into power. So this would take in all the incoming light. It could also act as a varied mirror, So quite literally, these types of things follow all the rules of physics as we know them. You'd have emissionless propellant or emissionless propulsion. You'd have a essentially eternal power supply and unlimited data storage because you're using optical ring storage of of actual light, which is really quite kind of cool. I'm using what I call optical punch cards, which is basically you modify a beam of light as it travels into a storage system. You stamp it, so it's like an old punch card. So the beam is X light seconds long, and you just punch it with your data with using lithium niobate with titanium diffusion little mirrors, arrays. And you can do that all with chemical vapor deposition around. You can just grow these layers of diamonds. You can make it literally any shape, any thickness that you want. This is also going to protect all your inner workings. You can grow these secondary parts, but essentially you would want to go into the future so you could travel through space. You yourself. Now, like I said, your consciousness, the thing that makes you you, you're the grand sum of your parts, your grand sum of your informational totals. So if you took those same totals, the same things that make you you scanned that neurochemical brain goo, you know, and you took those and threw it into a simulator, you should essentially become conscious in that. And due to particle duality and polarity, or it's not polarity, it's parity, that would, just a moment. Coffee. I don't know how I'm going to enjoy that as a simulation, but there could be something similar, I'm sure. Let's say instead of just one of these, you put your consciousness into 10. Quite literally, it would be a mega consciousness. You would essentially have entanglement. Now you might have to, I don't even think you'd have to sync them. There would be an entanglement. Those would be, there would be like a shared consciousness, or there could be. I think across maybe vast distances. Now you may have to sync them up though. You may have to sync them up kind of like you sync up a CPU. You may have to sync them all up before you send them out. So you'd have like a time index, and then they would sync so that they would all be firing their systems at the same moments, and then you could sync a swarm. But you could send these swarms out into interstellar space for close examination. It'd be very useful for examination of distant objects. It'd be very useful for cataloging the asteroid belt and any of your solar system based objects. You literally have an active consciousness, essentially. I think you'd be able to do the, is it faster than light? Yeah, they're saying that entanglement allows faster than light communication between like objects. If you have two light systems that are synced, you might see something similar to that as well. So, light-powered solar egg with a good possibility of sync consciousness on multiple units. Now, 0.87 times the speed of light. That's pretty fast. And 0.87c. I think that's one reason why you'd want to go to the future. Is that right there? Is the possibility of this? You know, when mankind gets their proverbial head out of their you-know-what, they're going to reach for the stars, and maybe in this type of manner. It's going to take a little bit more conscious effort from humanity and a little bit less, I don't know. I mean, you could do it for greed. You can do it for greed. Let's go out and catalog the asteroid belt using, you know, drones. I mean, why don't we go to Mars with drones instead of people? Drones have a much higher success rate so far. Let's just send drones there. Let's send drones all over the place. Let's start with something If it's not as cool as this, well, we could build something as cool as this, even now. And we don't have to start with optical computers, but why not reach for it? Anyway, so that's what I would say we'd want to go for the future, is be able to stick our consciousness into an optical computer, into a basically permanent lattice work, and travel to the stars. That's probably the best way to do it. I mean, honestly, you're not going to do it in this form unless you do a few crazy things that physics kind of, well, doesn't want to let you do. Using the science we know right now, we could do that. And that'd be a good enough reason to do it. Waking up in the future in a conscious state. Let's think about some of the things that we would find. Well, it would be a post-apocalyptic world where corporations may or may not have survived into that future, and there'd be massive scavenging of essentially deceased cities. There'd be hot zones, there'd be no-go zones, there'd be a lot of things. Now, water, of course, we found with time kind of like washes the radiation down into the dirt, so it would probably be a livable place. In places, there'd be places you wouldn't want to live. However, I think that when we look forward, we're going to see the technology capable of doing this kind of thing being somewhere between, naturally, not without any guidance, we should reach this level of technology. Maybe, well, if we started right now, we could do it sooner, before the collapse. It'd be a lot easier than having to rebuild it. But let's say we work on this and try to go forward as a society. There's no need for it right now, but is there? There is. I think resources, like what we talked about before with the depletion of resources here on the Earth, it's going to be time soon to be able to go out and send remote drones into the asteroid belts, collect the metals and the things that we're out of here, and bring them here so we can use them and make them into things that we need. The future, like a Blade Runner, where you see the massive cities that are built on all the super materials and super advanced computers and things like that, that's going to happen if we reach to the stars and go get the materials we need. I see Mars and the asteroid belt as two different things. Mars doesn't look like it's ready to be populated yet. I'd be taking a different route with Mars. Maybe some heavily water-bearing, carbon-bearing, material-based asteroids would be best to hit. If we raise Mars's temperature at the equatorial belt by 3 degrees Celsius, it would be habitable, temperature-wise. If we hit it with enough ice, well, that would probably be a good thing to have a lot of water there. We probably wouldn't want to put people there yet, though. I think drones are going to be the best idea. We can easily set up drones that'll go there, endure the conditions that are needed to be endured, harvest the materials, and bring them back, if that's what we're talking about. When we talk about harvesting materials, it's a lot easier to go to the asteroid belt. Cataloging those materials, I mean, I've seen current 3D maps of the asteroid belts, and you almost need something like this thing to go out there and dig around. But then, of course, then you're going to need either operators that are simulated operators, consciousness-wise inside these things, or you're going to need actual, scanned, inputted people. All right, well, that's pretty much it. This is the future as I see it. You saw where we were going, and I believe this is where we could go if we intervene and begin preparing for the inevitable material shortages that are going to occur here, I'd say. Well, at least in the next 150 years, definitely. Anyways, thanks for watching, and once again, I'm Zio, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye!